you want to feel the progress when you're in practice, and you feel like you are every single day of practice is valuable. And there were times with that previous roster where not every day felt like that. And that's when things get bad.
Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview, this time covering VCT Americas Stage 1 for Media Day. For this occasion, I'm here accompanied by FNS of NRG, coming off of their appearance in Kickoff, now getting ready to compete in Stage 1 and then everything beyond that point. So FNS, gotta give my thanks to you for giving me this chance for this conversation during a very busy media day for you. And so, I mean, looking at NRG, plenty of things happened within the team, so to speak. And but what I want to ask you first and foremost is, with the inclusion of Mike's and Brock, how has the kind of preparation been like for you guys to have to kind of start from relatively zero to now be at a pretty decent shot to compete for one of the top spots in the league?
But we've had a decent amount of time to practice. Honestly, we've had a month. If I'm being very specific, probably like 3.5 weeks to get a good amount of practice in. We've been progressing at a pretty rapid rate, in my opinion. And a lot of that is just because of the new additions to the team. A lot of the conversations on the team are a lot smoother, and everyone's kind of getting their say in what they think we should or shouldn't do. And I feel like in general, the vibe of the team is a lot more optimistic than it was prior, for a bunch of reasons that I don't want to go into. But yeah, in general, everyone's doing a pretty good job of staying on task when we play practices. Our fundamentals are pretty strong right now. We feel very confident in our current form as is, and going into split one, that's what we're going to try to show.
I mean, looking over into how this season has been transpiring for this NRG squad, you were kind of starting off this year with relative expectations, relatively higher expectations, given how you guys were doing pretty well in the off season, and so going from that to then competing in kickoff, coming up short in the top spots for the league. I want to ask you just sort of into that time frame, what do you feel just sort of you saw within the team during kickoff that made you realize, okay, I think we gotta take a different direction. This can't work anymore.
Just a lot of fundamental errors, I think, was the biggest problem for our team, along with just poor individual form for me and a lot of other players on the team that felt like they could have played better as well. So, but the biggest thing for me was the fundamentals. We were lacking them at a very uncharacteristic level, especially for teams led by me. So, um, there was a lot of rounds and a lot of series that we played, and those rounds should have been won by us and easily won by us, but we were somehow capable of throwing away those rounds because of miscoms, overcoms, a bunch of other reasons. So, uh, the goal for this current team is to make sure that we don't fall into those traps and kind of have set things that we can fall back on so we don't have to worry about the randomness that ended up happening in a lot of the rounds that, shifted a lot of the momentum in the opponent's favor in the kickoff or whatever. So, yeah. And as far as oh wait, what was the other part of your question? Sorry.
More so like timing. If there was there any point in time when you kind of saw or thought to yourself, okay, we gotta take a different direction with this team.
Honestly, after the split ended, we had a bunch of conversations, and at first we weren't gonna change anything, but we kind of discussed it as a team, and the overall sense of everything was that it was a unanimous decision that we felt a change was needed. And you never, personally for me, I never want to make changes if I can avoid it, just because of all the time you spent with a specific player or a specific team. You don't want to start from zero essentially, right? So, um, yeah, we didn't necessarily plan on doing anything, but it was just so our performance was just so bad in comparison to how we can play, that, and especially it being, you know you only have three chances and now one of them is gone. It's like you want to get it right the second time around, and we felt like this was the best direction to go. But yeah, at that time, I don't know. Right after the matches ended and we got knocked out of the event, there was no like subsequent discussion after that point. But like a few days later, when people had actually had time to think and we like talked it through, um, the suggestions were very similar, and that's why we were kind of on the same page. Everyone was when we made the changes.
Which then led to the arrival of Mike's and Brock into the team. I know that some talked to me sometime before this recording, and he mentioned about how like you know, I think it was Mata that asked or vouched very heavily for Brock to get into the squad, and then I want to know from your point of view though, you're sort of like, what did you see in Brock and also Mike's that you say, okay, these guys are the right fit for us, and talking a little bit more about Mike's, how his kind of coaching slash style compares that to what you've seen in bonkar, and also like how has that kind of synergy been like in just having to be on the same page as well?
So with Bonkar and Mike's, I guess the biggest difference is Bonkar is a lot more motivational for sure. But the thing is, I think something that Mike's will help me specifically with, and the reason we would work together well is because tactically we're able to decipher what the opponent is doing and just figure out a good game plan. And like that specifically when it comes to tactics and strats, that's the main thing that he's here for me and for the team to provide is just tactical analysis on how the opponent plays and what we can do to outplay them. Um, and that's like I think Mike's biggest strength because he's been an analyst and a coach. And when I worked with him personally, I told him exactly what I needed for matches, and he would just give it to me, and it was pretty straightforward. So it was pretty easy for me to suggest him as our coach. And then as far as Brock goes, yeah, it was a huge vouch from Adam, and obviously I didn't know much about him, but you can clearly tell. Watched multiple matches of him and I watched VODs of him, and he was extremely talented player, not just in terms of like his mechanics, but also his utility usage. And it felt like that was the best direction we can go because Adam already has a lot of chemistry with him, vouched for him being a great teammate and all those things. And truthfully, like he wasn't wrong. All those things are pretty true overall. Like he's been a great teammate. He's like been a sponge essentially, just kind of absorbing everything that we've told him. And we also take suggestions from him, which is great. So he's opened up a lot on this team. And yeah, we feel like more of a unit than we did in the past, just because I think the biggest thing is we are able to have a lot of conversations we weren't able to before, and it just helps the progress of the team essentially. And I think that's why at the beginning I said that we are improving at a pretty rapid pace. I think a big reason for that is because we have 5 people that are just constantly able to say exactly what they're thinking and figure out solutions to issues, and we're able to work well off of each other.
Well, one other aspect that I want to ask you about out of my curiosity, and it's one that has been brought up by like the fans, over on social media, the sort of like, and also like from my recent conversation with some of your teammates today is the energy and more so the vibe within the team, because like some mentioned about how like when the right group of players are together and the energy is right, the camaraderie is there, the connection
Yeah.
is there, and it can lead to great progress. And so it kind of gives me the idea that like when you guys had that the previous version with Verno and Bonkar, if you can kind of like talk about it. If not, if you don't want to elaborate, I understand, but more so like how'd you kind of look at that aspect in the team struggles, there not being the right environment, the right energy, the right kind of cohesiveness that kind of led to the issues in fundamentals, the issues in everything else surrounding that, and et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, obviously everything comes from winning or losing. I think that's the biggest thing. When you lose and you like try to micro like analyze how you lost, you can think of solutions to like what you can do to be better next time. But the biggest word is progress, and when you're not progressing at a rate that you want to every single day in practice, every single week, um, that's when things kind of become demotivating for a lot of people because they're like, shit, like, are we just playing to play at this point? Like, what's happening? So that's the big thing when you're competing at this level is you want to feel the progress when you're in practice, and you feel like you are every single day of practice is valuable. And there were times with that previous roster where not every day felt like that. And that's when things get bad. Is like we practice way more than we play matches. So if the environment in practice is you feel like people are not responsive, or you feel like progress isn't as fast as it should be, that's when I think people start to lose faith a little bit. And I think that's what happened with our previous roster more than anything else. And then again, like I said, with these changes, obviously our hope was it would turn around, and that wouldn't be the case anymore. Like we would start progressing a lot faster. And so far we have been, but again, it's going to come down to whether we win or lose. We have to just win. So every team that wins will be happy, and everyone's going to be motivated and show the best side of themselves. But when you're losing, that's not going to be the case. And that's the cutthroat business that we're kind of in, where you win, you get to enjoy all the spoils, and if you lose, you're out. So
Such is the way for NRG and their story for this year so far. A story that has yet to be completed, and hopefully a story that will see a very good turnaround for the better. Finesse, gotta give you my thanks for giving me the insight for this your squad. Give me another chance for another interview. Hopefully I can talk to you again in the future. And of
absolutely.
course, best of luck goes to yourself and the rest of the squad in stage one.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Take care, man. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.